commerce content is a partnership category that's driving significant revenue for both brands and publishers because of the authenticity and the trust. And that category is just continuing to grow year over year. You know, and as Max mentioned, we at Impact.com are very focused on that category, recently acquired Pressboard, and before that, Trackonomics, both of which provide solutions for publishers for commerce content. So let's give a very warm welcome to Bryce Widelitz, our VP of Publisher Innovation, and his publisher panelists.
Hey everyone, Bryce Widelitz, Vice President of Publisher Innovation at Impact.com. At Impact, I focus on bringing new products to the publisher market and help publishers to diversify their revenue. Previously, I was at CNN, where I founded CNN Underscored, the reviews and recommendations section of CNN, and I'm excited to have these great panelists. So before we get started, show of hands, how many people come to conferences to try and learn something? How many people, though, feel like they do learn something? How many people came here to make a partnership, to network, to meet others? Cool. And then how many people just came for the drinks? Awesome. Well, hopefully you can do all of those, specifically learn something today, and then make a partnership, and then have some drinks later. I'm excited to introduce our panelists. So why don't we get started on your name, company, and then how you got started in commerce content. Kendall, want to go ahead?
Great, thanks for having me, Bryce. So my name's Kendall Clark. I'm the Chief Commerce Officer at VerticalScope. So VerticalScope, for those who don't know, we're a tech platform that supports over 1,500 different sites. Many of them are user-generated content, so forums or like What You Seek, AVS Forum, or Home Talk, which is a large blogger site. And then we have a number of editorial sites, which would be really focused in on covering niche kind of news in the automotive space, like AutoGuide or motorcycle.com. And then we have pure play kind of commerce review sites, things like The Streamable, Treadmill Reviews, or The Sleep Judge, to name a few.
Awesome. Jessica?
Jessica Spira. I'm Group VP of Strategic Growth and Partner Management at Ziff Media Group. Ziff is a digital media portfolio. We have a variety of publishing and shopping assets. Some of our marquee brands would be PC Mag, which is celebrating its 40th anniversary this month, in fact, Mashable.com. And on the shopping side, we have Retail Me Not, Offers.com, 3 Black Friday assets. We have more sites than that as well. And our aim is really to help consumers discover, choose, purchase, and use products and services that they can love and enjoy. And in terms of getting into commerce content, I think I personally fell into it twice. First, years ago at Bankrate, doing content distribution deals where we were applying the monetization engine for personal finance on other partner sites. And then at Ziff, as Kara was with me, will remember that we discovered pretty early on that our users trusted the content and the reviews that we were creating and wanted to buy the products that we were recommending. And then we were just able to scale that commerce piece of our business very quickly.
Awesome. Kara?
Yes, and I'm Kamenek. I am the Senior Director of Affiliate and E-commerce at A360 Media. That was previously American Media, basically, for reference. I came in 2018, and at the time, the company had no e-commerce going on at all, which was interesting, because I think at that time, most publishers had dabbled in it a little bit. So it was a great experience to come into this company that was very heavily print-oriented. If you think about some of these publications we have, it's Men's Journal, it's OK, Star. It's like everything you see at an airport when you go before you get on a plane, in a good way. And it was a very print-focused company because of that. So to come in and explain, we're going to do something and get paid in 90 days, and it's based on performance, it's not a flat fee, was a very new thing for everyone. And it's been a great experience. We're growing it since then. We just acquired 2 new digital publications, Bauer Media sites, and we're just taking it off from there. And then I got into this industry about 10 years ago. I started at Ziff Davis with Jessica, and before that I was in the daily deal industry, which peaked and then ended and kind of transitioned into this deal-oriented industry we're in.
Awesome, cool. Well, thanks for the introductions and glad to have you all here. So at Impact, we believe there's a convergence of branded content and commerce content. While they're distinct products and offerings, marketers and publishers should do both. So to get a sense of the size of the industry, branded content's about a $20 billion industry and affiliates a little over $8 billion. And to get another idea of some other statistics, last year 2.1 billion people shopped online and they spent about 4.9 trillion, which is about a 20% growth or 17% growth year over year. And in terms of other shopping metrics, how people are buying things, reading before they make a purchase, so 9 out of 10 consumers read a review before they make a purchase, and then actually 55% of consumers read 4 reviews before they make a purchase. So tells you people are really engaged, they want reassurance, confirmation from others before they make a digital purchase, and they're going to their sites to read and review before shopping online. So before we go any deeper, I think it's important to define it. You've heard commerce content, branded content, what are the formats, like how does it work? It's different at every publication. Jessica, do you want to share about commerce content, branded content, and the types and how it works at Ziff?
So I would say at Ziff, across most of our brands, I don't actually look at it as commerce content, it's content. At the core, at PC Mag, for example, this is service journalism. We have independent journalists, analysts, reviewers who look at all of the consumer products and services, the Wi-Fi routers, the web hosting, the VPN software, and they make an independent analysis and judgment, write that review or that comparison, and then we monetize it via performance marketing or via affiliate. So it's content, it's service journalism, it's recommendations. The commerce aspect is the monetization. When we talk about branded content, for us, branded content is when an advertiser has some influence over the piece of content that is being created. So that can take the form of a very deep interactive piece on Mashable. A year or two ago, we did Mash Home, which was an interactive experience. That was branded content. We have branded content on Retail Me Not, on the blog, and in the form of shoppable video. And those are pieces of content that, from an advertiser perspective, allow the advertiser to control the narrative, create some ability to discover a product or service, as well as do some storytelling. And I also think being able to target an audience in some very specific ways that are different than how it would happen in just regular, service journalism.
Awesome, super, super helpful. And Kendall, I know at VerticalScope, it's a little bit different with how you guys have the news team set up and also something you guys do called paid placements. Can you help everyone understand that too?
Sure. So initially, I think when we started out getting into commerce, we'd have, probably as many of you do, different teams. So we'd have 3 different teams, one that was really focused in on editorial, one that was more on commerce content, so thinking about doing reviews, writing out lists, building it out that way, and then we had a sponsored content team. Over time, the editorial and commerce, to Jessica's point, have really kind of come together. But the one that's kept separate is still sponsored content, right? Because there's just that sense that you need to make sure that that is separate from the editorial piece. It's not always kind of blending in, or it has to be very distinct. We do have the option on some of our lists that have really good high value, deep funnel intent, where we'll have a call out of like, this is a sponsored product embedded within the actual list. And that's an option that on a lot of our high traffic review pages, we will, or kind of round up pages of, best X type of product will allow advertisers to advertise into sometimes. But it is generally kept relatively separate, and it's definitely indicated. I think the whole idea of branded commerce or branded content has become really popular and important in our business, and that it allows us to get more visibility into advertisers that we wouldn't necessarily always have. It also allows us to think a little bit more creatively on how we can promote brands that maybe aren't seeing the exact conversion that we need to have on the commerce side. So if our earnings per click within the affiliate side isn't performing, whether that's because people aren't checking out or whatever is happening, we might not continue to push that. But if they have a lot of other advertising with us, we can say, okay, well, maybe we'll have multiple buy buttons there, or maybe we'll show more and just continue to look at that as a larger package on some of these partnerships. And so it's great to have that as another type of revenue source, because it allows you to be a little bit more creative, where if you didn't have that other spend, you might just say, well, when we tested you on that list, it doesn't convert, X retailer isn't working for our audience, and so we'd pull it off. Whereas definitely when there's some other types of spend through advertising channels, it definitely keeps it a little bit stickier for us as a publisher.
Awesome. And I'm sure a lot of brands in the audience are curious, like, how do we price these things? Like, what is the cost structure? Without giving any secret insider information, Kara, can you share how you guys approach this?
Yes, absolutely. So on our end, if we were to break down the pricing for our company, print would be the highest, which isn't always a concern for everyone now, and with so much digital, but I mean, it's still out there and it exists. So print is the highest by far. We're talking, $250,000 probably to be in a full page of that, roughly. Then we get into our digital sales, which can be branded content separate from affiliate. That's that's 50 to 100K minimum, depending on the price or the site you're on and what you'd like. And then we get into affiliate, and that is a tenth of that cost. So for advertisers, that can be really good. It can be a way to get in without spending too much. And it's still, that's a lot to ask for a lot of these startups or whatever budget constraints you have. So it's a good way to try to get into our site in general. And then from there, if we see performance, our digital sales team goes out, reaches out again. And if we see performance that's doing well, we'll invest more on the affiliate side, or it's just a way to get onto our editors' radars. I probably 200 emails a day. Everything was shut down because of a virus. So what are people buying when they're at home? They're buying, probably everyone has bought some type of either like wellness product or a fitness product or something, because you're at home, or comfortable clothes. The market for that skyrocketed, even face masks, at the time. So I think it's just adapting to what do people need now. If there's a war in Ukraine and gas prices are sky high, what are people buying actually? And adapting to that, or even adapting your marketing message towards that. Because a big thing we talk about too is wellness, and wellness is a very broad category. It can basically describe any product to an extent. So how can you take your product and frame it in that way, and how can we do that on the publisher side and align it with, is it better for Us Weekly or Men's Journal or Women's World? So there's ways to do this. It just has to be looked at as a way, as a marketing tactic in a way. And I think making sure that spends go in the right places for what you're anticipating back, as Jessica said, like what are you looking for, your KPIs, and having that communication, as Kendall said, and talking about what's happening. We don't really know on the publisher side what's always happening with the advertisers, and what, do you need to get it back this month? Do you need to make that back in a year? Do you have a long-term goal? And this is just like opening the doors for that. We don't always know. So having that communication also helps a ton. So there's ways to do it. I think it's just opening up, what you usually expect, including influencers to an extent, working that in, and finding new ways to make it work. The whole industry has evolved a lot in the last 10 years, and I think if you stay in it, you just learn to evolve in a way.
Awesome. Kendall, what do you think?
Yeah, and we're hearing a lot of parallels to, back in 2020 when there was all of the market fluctuation, and I think unfortunately we are in a pretty different spot, right? There, everyone was locked up, you're like in your house, and you're shopping for all these new products that you didn't have, whether it was setting up your home office or, the gyms are closed, to Kara's point, we need to have fitness equipment. All of these different pieces, and then there were stimulus checks. There's a push for increased spending, and so I think there was a lot that was being pushed forward to online. And I think now we're still going to have a real strength in performance marketing, but I think on the flip side, there isn't the same consumer demand. People have, for the most part, a lot of what they need. So things like streaming services, I think, will do well because people are still, needing and pushing on those fronts. But I think a lot of like tangible goods, it's going to be a little bit more challenging. And so, unfortunately, you can see it in a lot of the big retailers, and when they're issuing all of their earnings releases that there is a pullback in consumer spend that we're seeing right now, but I think it's still a good spot to be in the performance marketing area, because I don't think that that's going to be, I think it's ultimately going to be continue to be pushed as a good channel.
Awesome. And Jessica, what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, in terms of budgets, I'm pretty confident that the performance marketing channel is going to fare pretty well. It's very efficient. It works. You can track it. So all of that bodes well for, if there is some kind of pullback in a recession because of macroeconomic conditions. I think where we may see some pressure is some on incremental budgets and some experimentation with branded content. I can see that pulling back. We saw that pull back in 2020, but we also saw that marketers who kind of stayed in the game in 2020 fared pretty well. And I would say, I still think consumers are spending, but what we're seeing is the verticals are shifting. So yes, we're not getting, they're spending maybe less on desk chairs and printers because they bought those 2 years ago, but they're spending on gifting and travel and some apparel and things that are seasonal. We're definitely seeing that in the data. I also think what we're seeing is some price sensitivity. So we have some panels, research panels attached to some of our sites, and when we did a poll on the Retail Me Not side for shoppers for back to school, we saw 97% of parents are planning on shopping for back to school. That's not a huge surprise. But what was interesting was 61% said price will be a significant factor in their decision making on what to buy and where to buy. And a year ago, that number was less than 50%. So I think in just a year, you see some price sensitivity. And then I think it's up to publishers to work with their advertising partners, whether it's through branded content, to kind of tell a story about value and quality. And I think, deals or offers pegged to some kind of narrative are going to be able to help move the needle for advertisers and for publishers.
Awesome. So we think the performance channel is going to bode well, but it's just shifting categories. So I think a good question is how you adapt in these uncertain times. So we went from COVID to one of the best market situations or conditions of all time, inflation, and now talks potential recession. But I think how do you future-proof your business? What do you do to stabilize and grow revenue? Jessica, what do you think?
So in terms of future-proofing, we do think about this a lot at Ziff, and I think just internally, right? So first, I think, do we have the right people and enough of the right people? Or are the butts in the right seats, right? I think that's really important. You can have a great strategy, but if you don't have the right people to execute the strategy, or the people aren't, satisfied, that's going to be an issue. So how as a company do we make ourselves a place where people want to come to work and are very happy and satisfied? So I think people is one. Then the second part of the people equation is how are we continuing to serve our readers? So how are we creating the right content and the right experiences to meet our readers' needs so that we can create a direct relationship with them? I think that as publishers, we are so dependent on platforms, which is as Kendall will tell you, it's a scary place to be, right? So how do we create that one-to-one relationship and continue to serve our readers? And then how do we craft better partnerships with our advertising partners, our network partners? Years ago, the first affiliate conference I went to, someone very senior who'd been around a long time, pulled me aside and said, Jessica, this is all about relationships. It's all about relationships. That's all you need to know about affiliate. It's about relationships. And I think to a great extent that's true. So how do we work with advertisers, with networks, to craft partnerships that make sense for both parties, right? It can't just make sense for the advertiser, and it can't just make sense for the publisher. And I think making sure that we create those experiences, those three things are going to help future-proof us.
Awesome.
I hope.
Me too. I think it will. Kara, what do you think?
Yeah, just to continue on that note, the same thing happened to me, actually. I was at a conference early on, someone said, this is a partnership-based industry. That's it. And it's true, like people go from advertiser to publisher to OPM to agency to whatever else in between. So it is very much that. And a lot of the partnerships that we work with now are people who have gone in different places, and we just continue to, we already know it works, we have that. So I think maintaining the partnership is a huge aspect of this. And also it's interesting because our digital team and the print team a lot, they don't even talk to the advertiser. And affiliate opens that door to make that happen. So I think just maintaining that relationship on all ends is extremely helpful. And then, yes, monetize your audience. I mean, at the end of the day, you can rank in Google, and we're all doing that, but in general, only you have your audience as a publisher, and only you have like the audience you're seeking as an advertiser. So you want to find where that works together and then put your spend in there and everything like that. So I think that as publishers, we're trying to relate better to our audiences, see what they're buying, and that's evolving too. And then as we work with advertisers, we want to make sure that as budgets might go down, we're positioning the right advertisers there, and we're communicating back what's working, what's not, and what worked before 2020 might be very different now too, or even 10 years ago or 5 years ago. So I think just having the relationship and then monetizing your audience, learn from your audience. What are they opening emails? Are they clicking on social links? Like what makes sense and what can you offer advertisers? And then, yeah, same thing, just keeping that line of communication open. The last thing I just want to say is when we started doing this in American Media, or A360, it was American Media then, at the time we were explaining how this works, and I had very senior people asking me, like, why are you talking to people, like advertisers like that? They're clients. And I was like, well, they're not. They're partners. In affiliate marketing or commerce, we're partners, we're partnerships. It's not the client base as much. So that just reinforces that we need that communication, and we want something, like as Jessica said, that works for both parties.
Awesome. And Kendall, any other thoughts about future-proofing?
Yeah, I think for us, it's really around like making sure you have a really good diversification strategy, both for the channel and what traffic you're bringing in, and whether you're bringing that traffic from Google or maybe Bing or Facebook or Instagram or YouTube. How are you building out your content and making sure you get really good, high quality traffic to that content? Because each traffic source does have a different feeling, but these algorithms, they love you one day and then they can switch pretty quickly, and making sure that you understand and you can really kind of build on that. And then similarly, I think even with like advertisers or partners, making sure that you have a good set of partners that you want to be working with that add value to the consumer, and understanding how you're going to do that, because it really gives you a lot more strength if one person pulls or one company pulls back on commission rates or does something, your business doesn't necessarily fall. You can move traffic to different sources. You can push back in different ways. I think just broadly having a really good diversification strategy is going to be really important. And the years are only getting more and more volatile, it seems, and so it's going to be important for long-term success.
Totally agree. Well, thanks everyone for listening into the panel. I think to kind of recap, speaks to the value. Hope you guys learned something on commerce content, branded content, paid placements, but the importance of diversification. And think of these as different experiences, right? So like branded content, more about discovery, awareness, and affiliate, more about conversion. So you're gonna think of, as a brand, you should be doing branded content and get exposure, affiliation with the brand, association with the publication. And if you're not doing commerce content, it's something you should definitely explore. And as a publisher, I know from experience that publishers are always looking for new ways to monetize. So it's really important to diversify your revenue, staying true to your audience, so maintaining editorial integrity, but trying different formats, whether it's paid placements, branded content, again, commerce, and seeing what works, because if you don't try, you're not going to be able to hit those next year revenue goals. So that's a wrap. Just want to say thank you, everyone. And also, we're going to take a break. So thank you, everyone.